Hi, good evening. This is Suzanne Morgana of Modern Druid. You can find me on Instagram at Morgana Modern Druid, or you can find us online at www.moderndruid.com. I'm delighted to be presenting this evening at Moon Serpent and Bones Full Moon Market. I am very keen and very excited to talk to you about Ogham and Ogham divination. So Ogham, also pronounced as Ogham in ancient Irish, is actually a symbol system, also known as the tree alphabet, but I won't go there this evening. There's a little bit of controversy around whether that's actually a tree alphabet or whether we should even refer to it as a tree alphabet. But in the Irish tradition, the Ogham is a letter symbol system that was used centuries ago. And it was primarily used, well, what we have left are on standing stones, and those were primarily used to indicate names, possibly of chieftains, tribesmen, landowners, etc. So all over Ireland and parts of Wales and Scotland and England, you'll find standing stones with these wonderful etchings that are linear lines that are usually carved into stones where the stone line forms. So Ogham is written as a tree is climbed, as we like to say, from the bottom up. So if you find one of these tall standing stones and there's an edge on it, you need to read it from the bottom up. There are 20 symbols in all. An additional 5 were added a few centuries later. I like to stick with the original 20 feta, as they're called. Feta is the Irish for these letter symbols. And the feta are organized into 4 groups of 5. The groups are called acme, families. And as I mentioned, each of the symbols are called feta. So they can be used for divination, which is really what I want to talk to you about this evening. I love to use Ogham for divining, usually keeping it very simple messages. Sometimes I'll just pull the one symbol, see what the symbol says, much like a person may pull a tarot card, receive a sort of a quick message, quick hit for the day, where to put your priorities and your focus. So I often use them for that. What I have done is actually converted or sort of created a way of using Ogham that is a dice system. So I just have these, wonderful 4 little dice. And what I've done is, as I mentioned, there's 4 feta in each acme or family. There's 6 sides to a dice, obviously. So in each acme, it's represented by 1 dice. You've got 5 symbols and a wonderful little hand-drawn swirl. And so I take these 4 dice and I like to just give them a roll. So I read them as a sentence. However, you can read them in a number of ways. And certainly you'll come across other Ogham sets that are a single object per feta. So in other words, you may have 20 pebbles with 1 feta symbol on each. You may have it on pieces of wood, little round pieces of wood. If you think of Viking runes, you've seen those. They're often, carved into just little pieces. I like to consider myself very efficient, and so I put all my symbols, all my feta in an acme on 1 dice. So why do them this way? Number 1, I think it's fun. Number 2, I think it's a more modern way of working with Ogham, and of course, being a modern druid, I'm all about keeping it modern. As I mentioned, I like to read them as a sentence. So I tend to roll all 4 together, see where they land, lay them out, and read them as a sentence. But I've also created this handy little coaster. Now, often when we're divining with Ogham, you may find in the Celtic tradition and many other traditions, things tend to run in 3s. And so when we're divining with Ogham, often we're doing that in 3s, earth, air, and sky, but or earth, water, and sky, rather. But in my case, I've put them into 4 triangles. Why? Well, it's a coaster. There's 4 sides to it, right? So I needed to get creative. But what I'd like to use this coaster for is if you want to read the Ogham dice in a way other than a sentence, you might want to attribute certain correspondences with each of the triangles. So, for example, if I'm doing a love reading, simple reading, we may determine, where she's coming from, where he's coming from, what brings them together, what is keeping them apart, or what's sort of causing obstacles in their relationship. So what's strong, what's weak. That's always a fun one to do. So let's take a look. Let's see what happens if we roll the dice. If we're going to do a love reading, and why not, seeing as I've mentioned it, what I tend to do is roll one dice at a time. Now, of course, that means that you're whittling down each of your acme each time. But I like to think that the Ogam, when you identify with them, you ask your question with great intention, it knows which ones to drop first. So let's begin. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I just take the dice, let me ask a love question. I have a certain couple in mind here, and I'm going to ask, where is she coming from? So I'm just going to give my dice a little shake. And I'm going to call on Agma, who really is see him as the father spirit of Agam, though each of the symbols definitely has their own guide associated with it. But I'm going to ask Agma to please bless our reading this evening, and let's take a look and see what we get. So first of all, where is she coming from? And I'll put that on the triangle that I've associated with she. And obviously this can be she and he and he, whatever combination you like for whatever couple you're reading for. Where is he coming from? Okay, we'll put that in his area. What strengthens their relationship? And what weakens their relationship? Last die, dark dice. Okay, so if we take a look at how the dice landed, obviously we're going to read on what comes up, right? What's face up. That's how we're going to read this. So taking a look at where she's coming from, this symbol here with the four, lines reading from my right to left here. This symbolizes call, and call really is about wisdom, I guess, to condense it down. And that's really talking about just sort of this innate sense of knowingness, and knowing what may be required at any given time, being able to really tap into that inner wisdom and bringing that to bear. So that's really where she's coming from. Where's he coming from? Well, we got the wonderful swirl, didn't we? So that means that may remain unknown, or it may be asking for a roll again. And this is usually what I take this symbol to mean, right? Which means this particular, of the three dice that were left, right? It wasn't the one that was coming up for him, which tells me that it probably wants to come from our second acme. This happens to be a grouping from our second family. So we're going to hold off on him for a moment. What strengthens them? This is actually really, really interesting. So this symbol here with the 5, now reading from my right to left, is Idad. And Idad is really related to ancestors and memory, bringing through part of the spirit world, and also what is known or what needs to be uncovered from family history, which should really be looked at and explored from the past, as well as really calling on and using ancestors to really help and be a part of this. So that's really beautiful in terms of what's strengthening the relationship. And then what's weakening the relationship? This is a beautiful symbol. I work with this symbol a lot. This is Win. And Win is really about self-love and esteem, but it also touches upon trickery in love. That's obviously not a symbol that we want to see very often. But what this is really trying to say is that at the heart of sort of trickery in love is usually a lack of self-esteem, a lack of confidence in oneself, a lack of really loving oneself in such a way that they can truly give to not only themselves, but to another. And so when I have actually been working with very closely for the last couple of months. So very, very interesting, very beautiful symbol. So what do we do about where he's coming from? Because clearly we need to roll again. So I would simply scoop up the 4 dice again. And this time, actually, we're going to leave it open to all 4 of the dice and see what falls out. And here we have the beautiful, beautiful symbol of call once again. So wisdom, but a second dice fell out, right? And so this one I need to interpret as well. And this is the dead, which is vision. And so when we take something like wisdom and vision together, what it's really asking is to focus on where to pull out the lessons right, in what is being seen or what needs to be seen. The combinations, obviously, of Ogam, and you get really good at this over time, by the way. But the combinations of Ogam together, give you a sentence. One sort of reinforces the other or fortifies the other and pulls out a separate meaning to it. So this is really, where he's coming from, is perhaps a lack of vision or lack of wisdom. And why do we see lack? Well, because first of all, it was sort of conflicted, right? We ended up with a swirl that really wasn't coming through as something very strong. So unlike tarot, where we have a reversed card that tells us if there's a negative connotation to it, what we have to do is really sort of interpret and read into the way the dice might be falling. So a simple way to read, just a 4 feta reading for a couple. But as I mentioned, I like to read them as a sentence. So for me, I would put them all out. So how do I know which comes first? Well, I usually just sort of go from left to right. So I have my first one here, which is Huath. I'll explain what Huath is. When, no surprise there. It's been my bestie the last several days. A swirl, a spiral. So a spiral to me just means it doesn't want to be part of the sentence, right? The sentence is a 3-word sentence as opposed to a 4-word sentence. And then we have the lovely deer, one of my favorites as well. So Huath is to some a very negative symbol because it represents despair and anxiety. But to me, it's about overcoming these things, right? So when I'm working with Ogam, and certainly in my Ogam intention oils, which I'll talk about in a moment, it's about working with these symbols, pulling that through and setting your intention for what you want to do with them or about them. So when I pull Huath, it is, to me, reinforcing that I'm coming out of a time of anxiety, a time of despair, a time of, feeling let down. So that's a positive, particularly when coupled with Wyn. And Wyn, as I mentioned, is self-love and esteem. And so, moving beyond these feelings of despondency or despair and really focusing on self-esteem and issues of self-love and strengthening and fortifying that. And of course, then to have the end of our sentence, terminated on the end here with dear, it's about strength and endurance, right? So, what doesn't kill you helps you love yourself more and strengthens you and increases your endurance. It's how I would choose to read this sentence. So fun times with Ogam. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in the set, obviously check us out on our website, www.moderndruid.com, to take a look. Those sets are for sale there. So let me just tell you a little bit about our Ogam intention oils, because not only do I like to play with Ogam and turn them into dice, but I spent a significant amount of time working with each of these symbols and getting to learn about them, understand them, and really identify with all of the many correspondences associated with each one of them. They're very complex. They are beautifully unique in and of themselves and have such a rich and ancient tradition underlining them. And so in working with each of the symbols, it became apparent to me that I really wanted to create a way to experience them, not just visually by looking at them or, tactilely touching the materials that they might be written on, but to really be able to incorporate them somehow into my own being and hopefully share that with others. So I set about to actually create intention oil blends, which are essential oil blends that you can wear. You can put them on diffusers. You can put them on lava bead jewelry. You can wear them on your skin. You can put drops of the oil in your bath water. You can use them in ritual, whichever way you might use oil. You can anoint candles certainly with them as well. But the goal being, for example, if we're working with my friend Wyn, to be able to increase self-love and self-esteem, I like to do a little meditation in the mornings. I might put a drop or two in a diffuser while I meditate for a couple of minutes. And then I may put some on jewelry and a lava bead, or I personally like to wear these oils. Some of them smell absolutely amazing. Some of them are designed to provoke certain thoughts and meanings within you, and so may not smell like a floral perfume, but may have traces of black pepper in them and things like that. Each one is very unique. There's 20 in all. But the goal here is to really be able to set your intention, feel that intention, breathe in that intention, smell that intention. And scent, of course, is such a powerful thing. It helps to rewire our minds. It helps to open up neural pathways. It helps to create memory. It helps to inspire us in various ways. And so to me, being able to use ogam interpreted as a scent really helps to make that intention stick. And then also having a scent on you, having a scent on your clothes or your jewelry or on your skin, it helps you to come back to that intention throughout the day. As you get a whiff, you tend to reset your intention and say, oh yeah, I love myself. Let me focus on things that are going to bring me a little bit more self-confidence or more esteem. Let me fortify myself in such a way that you're constantly revisiting that intention throughout the day. So I hope you have as much fun with ogam, with our ogam intention oils. Maybe you'll buy a set online on our site. Of course, it comes with a booklet to help you understand what each of the meanings are and how to work with the ogam, work with the coaster if you want to use the 4 triangles, or work with more traditional spreads, and how to just go about engaging with ogam in hopefully a new and modern way. Again, www.moderndruid.com. Suzanne Morgana at Morgana Modern Druid on Instagram, and at Modern Druid on Facebook. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful evening, and wishing you full moon blessings.
Hi, I'm Connor of Etheric Eye.
And I'm Samantha of Etheric Eye and Moss and Moonlight.
In our shop, the Etheric Eye, we create and curate tools to help assist people on their spiritual journeys. We believe that providing tools such as these is part of our greater mission to help people realize their fullest potential and truest selves.
We make hand-carved wands adorned with crystals, curio jars and wreaths with dried flowers and crystals, and wood-burned wares with runes and sigils. We have a passion for creating customized items, which we offer with our spell jars and wands. And we also curate our shop with crystals and antique witchy decor and altar tools.
Now this is a temporary workshop space for Etheric Eye. We are hoping to get a much larger workshop space and storage space for Etheric Eye. We'll be moving within the next few months, hopefully. But in the meantime, we will give you a little behind the scenes peek at our current workspace.
This is our woodworking station where we whittle, carve, and burn many of the objects that we work on. Here is where I work on creating wands, burning runes, as well as a variety of other things. Right now, here's a project that I'm working on, a personal project. It's a bit of ironwood that I whittled, sanded, and I'm in the process of engraving and decorating. And if it turns out how I would like it to, you may see something kind of like this in the store at some point. These are my hand-burned rune sets for divination. I'm made out of spice bush, and they are currently up for adoption. They were made during a full solar eclipse, and they are made to resemble my own rune set, which I use at home. A lot of times when we are carving a wand, if we are carving to order, and I have kind of a specific intention for the wand that we are carving, I will carve it with the intention of being used by the specific person ordering it. There are times where I'll finish carving a wand and realize the result of the wand isn't an exact match and I'll have to start over. But yeah, I think that it's a very meditative time to attach the intention of the user to the intention of the creator.
Now Connor does most of the whittling, carving, and burning, although that's not to say that neither of us cross over, and I do more of the decorating, floral arrangements, wrapping, and things like that. So here is the space for creating wreaths, for creating spell jars, for doing the finishing touches on wands, and so forth. We have some dried flowers hanging above our table here. And this is not our only dried flowers. We have lots and lots in other areas of. There's some trinkets in here that we use for our products, some ethically sourced bones, some vintage keys, some things to play around with, lots of crystals for wand making, spell jars, etc. Here is a wreath I have in progress with a fox skull on this baby, as well as a spell jar, a curio jar, which is not done by any means. It's going to be loaded with a lot more flowers and pretty things, and then the cork cap comes on and we seal it with wax, colored wax of your choice, unless they are pre-made, which we are going to experiment with, also creating some pre-made options. And here I have some bells. This is our colored rope for wands for wrapping. Up here are some clay rune pieces, which I'm also going to experiment with putting onto wreaths. Lots and lots of moss. Here we have some things for spell jars. Rose, calendula, got some herbs, got some butterflies for wreaths, more wreath leaves and options, more ethically sourced bones. We also have some pre-carved wands that Connor made over here. This is so that if I get an order, a custom order, I can go ahead and select one that I feel intuitively fits this person's needs and requests.
Light as a feather when I'm floating through, reading through the daily news, measuring the hurt within the golden rule. Centimeters of ether, I'm heating the speaker. Motivational teacher with words that burn people. Singing the headlines, line with discord. It's either genocide or the planet in uproar. Never good. The rules in paradise are never nice. The best laid plans of mice and men are never right. I'm just a vagabond with flowers for Algernon, the average Joe who knows what the fuck is going on. It's the hope of my thoughts that I travel upon. Fly like an arrow of God until I'm gone. So drifting away like a feather in air, letting my words take me away from the hurt and despair. So I'm keeping it vertical, forever elevator, riding the escalator to the something that is greater. So I'm drifting away like a feather in air, letting my soul take me away from the hurt and despair. So I'm keeping it vertical, forever elevator, riding the escalator to the something that is greater. Taking chances, word tap dancing with wolves in the ice arena out there deep in the woods of Arizona. The sun be out, life's ironic, ain't it? Trying to be Dali when I write surreal life, I painted vivid.
I'm an intuitive energy worker, a Reiki master, a yoga teacher, and a women's circle facilitator. I'm a physical empath and I can sense both emotions and physical sensations in other people. I use this ability along with my life experience and studies in holistic health, chakra healing, astrology, crystals, and somatic and inner child healing. I offer multiple types of distance healing services. The first option are live one-on-one sessions, which are either done via a video call or a phone call. We'll discuss where you're at in your journey and any blockages or areas you'd wish to work on. Then I begin channeling distance Reiki and offer occasional visualizations or meditations throughout the session. After the session, we get to recap anything of importance and have a little chat. Another thing I offer are distance healing sessions where we are not in communication throughout the session. On my site, these are called no contact Reiki, but we do communicate through messaging. The client requests their preferred date and time, and I transmit Reiki during that time. Not only can I do this for people, but I can do this for pets, items, spaces, or events, as Reiki helps the situation occur for the highest good of everyone involved. Lastly, I have some offerings that are specifically for women's growth and healing. I have monthly women's circles called the Goddess Garden. They're monthly offerings that are available via drop-in or membership. Each month there's a theme or a topic, and I provide guided discussion prompts so that we can really dive deep and connect with one another. For the last part of the event, I lead a gentle yoga flow and seal the circle with some group distance Reiki while everyone's in Shavasana. We leave feeling both connected to ourselves and to the other women, and having found both expansion and groundedness. The last offering I'll mention is my upcoming Goddess Academy. These will be a series of workshops studying feminine archetypes and goddesses that emulate them. We'll use what we learn and activation techniques to invoke the goddesses within ourselves. These workshops will also be offered once a month starting early summer 2021.
You can find us on Facebook and Etsy at Etheric Eye, and find our Instagram at etheric.eye.
And you can find Moss and Moonlight at mossandmoonlight.com, on Facebook as Moss and Moonlight Healing, or Instagram at mossandmoonlight_. Happy full moon.
And have a magical night.